So next up, meet the parents who say their daughter nearly died from vaping, and one of the CEOs who makes these products and stands behind them.
Become a very big business, as I understand it, like a giant business in a very short period of time. But we can't allow people to get sick, and we can't have our youth be so affected. Parents are going to be a lot tougher with respect to their children. A lot of people think vaping is wonderful, it's great. It's really not wonderful.
It's really not wonderful, says the president. After years of no smoking education in America, more and more kids are now essentially smoking again. But now instead of cigarettes, they're vaping, a smokeless form. They are also vaping THC or pot. In some cases, people are dying from that, is what a lot of folks looking at the situation believe. So this map shows the states where people have died, 6 deaths so far. And in yellow are states where people have become ill or have been hospitalized from vaping. Adults, of course, want the right to vape as they please, and parents want to keep their kids safe and healthy. In moments, we're going to talk to a CEO of a company that sells vaping devices. He is more open to some regulation. But first, Tim and Ruby Johnson, who got the scare of their lives when their daughter Piper nearly died, are here to share their story with us tonight. Tim and Ruby, good to have both of you here with us tonight. I know that you, like so many of us, were on the way. Your daughter was heading off to college. You're driving her out to Colorado, and suddenly you notice that she's coughing and she has pain in her chest. What happened then?
So she just, it just declined pretty quickly. She mentioned that it hurt to take a deep breath, and she was super honest from the very beginning, saying that she had been vaping. And so when we got to Colorado, I took her to an urgent care. She was then sent to an ER, admitted to the hospital, transferred to the ICU, and the best that they could tell at first, it looked like pneumonia, a diffuse pneumonia, they said, and but everything that they would do for pneumonia wasn't helping her, and she just really declined. Her oxygen needs kept going up and up, and she just got sicker and sicker until they figured out, they asked her, are you a smoker? And when she said e-cigarettes, they kind of took notice of all the cases that were popping up and started treating her accordingly. So,
I can't imagine how scary this must have been. And she did, Tim, she did admit, you said she was very honest with you, which was great, and all kids should be, because that's the only way you can treat them and help them get better. She did say that she had vaped THC. Did the doctors believe that that was what led to this infection?
No.
What did they say?
She was real honest with us from the start. She said that she had vaped both e-cigarettes and THC, but the vast majority was e-cigarettes. And the doctors initially were confused because she was the first diagnosed case of this lung infection or this lung injury in the state of Colorado. So they were really scratching their heads at first.
But our pulmonologist did say that that so many of the chemicals in the e-cigarettes are severe lung irritants and just should not be inhaled. His exact words were, fresh air, that's all you should be breathing. So there was he felt that there was a huge potential for harm just from nicotine containing e-cigarettes.
Tim, what's your message to these companies? I'm about to talk to one of the CEOs of one of the companies that creates these devices.
Well, Martha, they knew what they were doing from the time that we got tobacco really minimalized in the youth, and they basically just borrowed old 60s and 70s big tobacco marketing. They went into the schools, they made it cool, and they've gotten millions of teens, and even younger than teens, hooked on nicotine. So something needs to be done, and then we need to address the fact that we're going to have millions of kids addicted to nicotine.
Because there are studies that show that a lot of kids roll over from this to cigarettes. And then, as you say, it's unbelievable that we're back where we started with all of this. Tim and Ruby, thank you so much. And we wish Piper all the best in college. And we're glad that she is on the mend. Thank you very much for telling your story tonight.
Thanks, Martha.
Thank you so much, Martha.
Thank you.
You bet. So joining me now, Nick Kovacevic, who is the CEO of Kushco Holdings, a company that. Thank you. I appreciate you being here and talking about this. It's obviously a controversial subject. Nick, what do you say to those parents who say that your companies like yours and others are trying to hook kids on smoking again?
Yeah, so first of all, obviously, very scary situation there and worse for others. So we feel terrible, as does everyone in our industry. Now, to be clear, our company only participates in the cannabis and CBD industry. We sell vaping devices for companies that are in those channels. We have no affiliation with the nicotine and e-cigarettes, which has had a prolific problem attracting teens to their devices, and that is something that our industry is learning from and hopefully is not going to repeat those same mistakes. We're off to a good start, but this is a good refresher.
A lot of the kids use those devices, as a way to use THC, and it doesn't smell like pot. It smells very light in comparison. So, I mean, do you feel responsibility for that?
Well, here's the problem, right? It's the black market. This is how kids are getting access. So cannabis has done a great job of setting up legal frameworks in states where you can't even get past the security guard unless you show an ID that you're 21 years of age or older, right? That's not the same for nicotine industry where you can walk into a 7-Eleven or a convenience store and you see the product right behind the counter. So we have a good start. Now we have to be consistent with that approach, and we have to make sure that we're not targeting and marketing to minors.
But that's what's happening. And don't you think that in part it could be happening because there's been so much legalization of pot across the country and it's more and more acceptable? So why would a kid think it's a big deal to use tobacco or THC in one of these devices? And this family said that they didn't feel that was the connection, but in other cases that I read about, they do think that it was THC used in the vaping devices that is causing this chemical reaction that has killed some people.
Yeah, and it's been tracked to a lot of the illegal devices because they're not regulated. That's why we're calling for regulation. We're calling for more states to legalize. And actually, there was a landmark study done earlier this year by 4 universities, and it shows teen use is going down for cannabis only in states that have legalized, down 8 or 9% in those states. So what we're seeing is an opposite effect. States that are legalizing, regulating, keeping kids away from cannabis are actually having more positive impact on the teen use statistics.
That's a very
but the illegal vaporizers, they don't check ID in the illegal market. The street dealers aren't checking for ID.
Well,
that's the biggest problem.
2017 to 2018, increase in vaping, 78% increase in current e-cigarette use among high school students,
for nicotine.
48% for nicotine, 48% among middle school students. That's alarming.
That's terrible, and that's all for nicotine. That's why the president's taking action, because those numbers are so alarming. And the cannabis industry
would you say that THC is not safe for children? That they should not be vaping THC?
Absolutely not. No adults under the age of 21 should be vaping any THC products or even consuming any THC products. And we're glad that the states that have implemented programs have really enforced that, and they've upheld that age limit to a very high degree.
Tough trend, and Washington is definitely in favor of some regulation here, so we'll see. And a lot of adults don't like, their rights infringed on either in some of these cases as well.
The reality is that's the only way we're going to make progress is through regulation. We need to regulate this better.
Thanks, Nick. Good to have you here tonight.
Thank you for having me.